So, Kristy, it's so nice to see you.
It's good to see you too.
So yeah, just gonna start off with by asking, when your journey started, who it was with, and anything that you would like to talk about.
Sure. So I guess the grief journey started with my dad dying. He died on my 18th birthday. He got sick when I was 15. So it was like a long illness process, and with like a lot of unknowns, right? And so um, the grief really didn't start when he died per se. I mean, I guess there was some grief, but like I felt it more when I had my son, because then I was like, oh, he would have really have enjoyed being a grandparent. Like, so that's kind of when that like grief hit, right? And then the next like set of grief was when my best friend killed herself on my birthday. And she had come to visit like right before, and I knew something was wrong. Like I didn't know that what was wrong, but I could just see it. I could see it in her face, and it was a very spontaneous like, "Hey, I'm coming to see you this weekend from." Actually, she was in New Jersey at the time, and just and I'm coming to New Orleans to see you, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And looking back, like I see now that she was going to visit all the people that she loved. Like she was actually making a trip to see all the people that she loved. And I asked her, I remember like driving her rental car and looking in the back seat, and like I just remember her face, and I was like, are you okay? Like I could just see something was really wrong, and but she said everything was okay, and I missed it, and actually I didn't find out about it until like a week after it happened, because we were evacuating for a hurricane. And at the time, I thought it was weird I didn't hear from her on my birthday, but I just, it was in the middle of a hurricane, so I didn't really think that much of it. And at the time, like email wasn't really popular. So like I had an email address, but I didn't really check it. And one of her friends had contacted me through email like a week later, like letting me know. And so that was really hard to like miss.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 28. Yeah. We were battle buddies in the military. And so like what that meant is that like when you have a battle buddy, like you know where they are at all times. So like, if you have to get up in the middle of the night to pee, they have to get up in the middle of the night to pee with you. Right. And she had come in, the last time I had seen her was for my baby shower. So like a year before. And this was right, like Connor and I's birthday is 3 days apart. So, it was right around that time. And yeah, and she's buried in Michigan, and that's only a couple hours away from me, but like I've always wanted to go and like, see your grave, and I just haven't gone. And I reached out to her sister, like hoping I didn't know her sister, but I found her sister on Facebook. And actually I always remember her on like Memorial Day or Veterans Day, and I'd hoped her sister would reach out to me, but she didn't. So yeah. And then my uncle, who was like my dad, so was more like my dad than my dad was. Like my uncle walked me down the aisle. My uncle like helped raise Connor. My uncle is who Connor calls grandpa. He moved to Indiana with us after Hurricane Katrina, like him and my aunt. And when Connor was like, I don't know, maybe like 1 or so, he had a fall, and they just kind of thought it was a fall, but then it wound up leading into a 7-year stay in a nursing home where he died of basically like his lungs, like because you get respiratory, he had asthma, and from laying flat and not being able to walk, yeah. And that was like the first time I got to see like Connor kind of grieve over somebody, right? but and then most recently is when I lost my mom 3 years ago. And that was by far the hardest, loss. I mean, obviously, there's, you have losses of pets throughout the years or whatever, and that is, I also feel like a huge loss. But your mom is your mom. There's, I don't know if there's a greater loss except for maybe a loss of a child, or a sibling, or yeah.
Yeah. So how did each of those different experiences change you? Like losing your dad at 18, like I can't.
So for my dad, it's very interesting because I'm 45 now, and he died when he was 47. And so the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, like if I were his age, I would have 2 years left, right?
Yeah.
For my my best friend, that loss is when you know in your gut that something's wrong, like ask a second time or a third time, right? Like don't just take that first word, like yes, I'm okay. There's the first person that I really knew who died by suicide, and I wish I would have kept asking, right? I don't know if I could have changed the course of anything, and I wish I would have known the signs better,
Yeah.
but now as a much older adult, like if I saw the same signs, I keep asking, right? For my uncle, he was a fighter. He did not want to die. He beat illness after illness and hospitalization, and he just had a positive attitude until the very end, right? And as hard as it was watching him go, like they actually did CPR on him multiple times. So like you crash and they do CPR. And, I think there's a time when you just are like, okay, like no more. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
never want to see your loved one suffer, or pain or anything like that. And for my mom, because I mean, so her cancer came by surprise, right? And nobody in my family has cancer. We've never had cancer. Um, and right before she died, we had actually met with her, one of her doctors, where she was getting radiation, and he was like, because it had metastasized to her brain. And right before she died, they said like it went away, right? And so it was right before Christmas, and we had like finally after like a couple of years, we had some hope, like, okay, wait, maybe we have some time. And then on Christmas Eve, she crashed, and I was like, you. This is selfish, but I'm like, you can't die on Christmas because you can't take my birthday and Christmas to get, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, so she went to the hospital on Christmas Eve, and she stopped talking Christmas Day, and then she died on the early morning of the 27th, and like 1:30 in the morning. And I've seen a lot of people die. I've worked in emergency rooms. I've seen a lot of death. And there's a point where like, okay, like these are the final hours. But there's something about letting go, about seeing your loved one where they're struggling to breathe. And if you have a choice between watching them struggle to breathe or letting them go, that was the hardest part for me. Is like, I'm like, yeah. I mean, to not be graphic, but it's a death rattle, right? Like and like if you see somebody struggling to breathe, like you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like it's horrible. You just want to make it stop. You don't want them to suffer. Like, and so it's just interesting. But it was like having that time with her by myself. Like it was snowing. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was really grateful that we were in a room that was for palliative care. So like there were no machines beeping, there was no flat line. It was just like um so it's peaceful as it could be.
Yeah.
And so yeah. And after she died, and I know it sounds silly, but like let's see, I was 41 and I was like, oh, I'm an orphan. And when you think of orphans, like you think of like kids who lose both their parents, but there's something weird about realizing that no one can tell you what to do anymore, right? Like, so I'm an only child, right? So it's like, oh, now I'm the adult, right? Like I'm the adultiest adult there is.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of weird and freeing and scary, like all at the same time, right? Because now you don't have that adult, right? Like to kind of guide you. And so yeah.
So your experience with grief at 18, you said your father passed when, right? Versus you at 41,
Mm.
like what a difference in how you perceive grief, how you like deal with it.
Sure.
How much of a difference was there for you? Or like
A
what?
huge one.
Yeah.
So yeah, so my birthday's in July and my dad died, my birthday, so July. And 4 weeks later, I moved across the country, 1,700 miles for college by myself. I didn't know anybody there. My roommate situation got messed up. And I thought, I can do this. Like, I got it. Right. And I failed miserably that first semester in college. Like I babysat the whole time. I didn't even go to classes. Right. And
Yeah.
I didn't recognize grief then. And I had a really tumultuous relationship with my dad. He was he was an abuser, and honestly it's interesting at 15 when he got sick, I saw that as a way of my mom to leave, to like escape the relationship, and she didn't. And I had a lot of conflict with saying I need you as a teenager, like these are the years that I need you, and you're not taking care of me, you're taking care of him, somebody who has hurt you all of my life. So you're choosing him over me. I
Mhm.
really struggled with that a lot. A lot. And it's different that at 41, I could see kind of even though my mom died at 67, so I still don't think that's long enough, right? That's young.
Yeah.
But I feel like she actually waited until I graduated from college. So I graduated late from college at 41. So I actually graduated on December 17th and she died on December 27th. And so it's like she was holding off to make sure that she knew I got a job, and she knew I could be a single mom and be okay on my own. And it was different.
Yeah. As someone who is young and lost a parent, like, is there any advice that you would give to someone else who, you're 18, you're barely an adult? Um,
I think, the first thing I would say is to get therapy, because I didn't. And I don't think I realized like the impact right at that time, because there were so many other things going on, right?
Yeah.
Going to college and but I think therapy is so important. Like sometimes people think you just have to go to therapy when something's wrong, but
Mhm.
I use therapy for everything. Like, and I don't use it always. I'm not in therapy all of my life, right? But I use it when I need it. Sometimes I use it like if I'm having issues at my job or in a relationship or grieving a parent, or or just to just be like, okay. As I'm older now, right? So at 44, now I can talk about like all the messed up things with my dad and that relationship, right? But I really couldn't do that at 18 because I
Right.
didn't. I didn't have the words, right? Or the maturity to do that.
Yeah.
I also wasn't a parent, right? So that's a really big difference of like looking at the dynamics now as a mom versus as a teenager, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And you said when your uncle died, you know, that affected Connor.
Mm.
How is it being someone who's going through grief, but their son is going through grief and having to like balance the two?
Sure. So yeah, it's really just trying to constantly check in on them to make sure that they're okay, right? And you always think, are they handling it okay? Am I telling them the right things? It was more impactful, I think, when my mom died because my mom was his second caregiver. My mom was like his parent, and so watching, like always watching for signs, like is he okay? Like you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and talking about her, and so I know we weren't friends at this time, but one of the things I did with him, I thought it was so beautiful to watch. She was cremated, and my mom was an artist, and so the night I got the ashes, put them on the fireplace. I kind of told Connor, I was like, "Hey, this is where they are," and he said, "Can I decorate the urn?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay." So I got some of her paint pens and I let him decorate the urn, and it was a healing experience for him. He felt part of it because we didn't have a funeral. We don't do funerals in my family,
Yeah.
and so it was beautiful to watch him kind of take ownership of his own grief and expression, and yeah. So
And when you use the term, sorry, orphan, like that is a big word.
it's a big word,
And
yeah,
even at like 44, 45, you're like, wow.
right?
So like,
I,
how does that like, what are your emotions behind that?
I just think it's a realization of like it's kind of scary, like, oh God, I'm in charge of my own life, and like nobody has any say on it, right? Or opinions. So my mom was alive, she was very involved in my life, right? And so she, I would do something and she'd be like, do you really think it's a good idea? Or, like, is that the smartest thing or whatever? And like I said, it's both freeing and scary, right? Because like I could say, hey Connor, let's sell the house and pack up all of our things and go travel around the world. Is that a good idea? I don't know. Like I, I have my friends now to give me guidance,
Mm-hmm.
and but it's just I am, and I have an aunt, and just I have a lot of people in my life to help me with guidance, but ultimately any decision is my decision, right? So it's
Yeah.
like ultimately I'm in charge, not only of myself but of Connor,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's a weird feeling, right? Like, yeah.
So, so regarding like you said, you have people in your life to help you with your guidance. So at age 18,
Mhm.
don't see many people or like people are like your 18-year-old friends knowing what to say to you when you know your dad just died and how
They
to
did.
how to comfort you. Like how was it then having support dealing with grief versus when your mom passed?
Sure. So then, I mean, like I said, I moved 4 weeks after. And so I moved into a state that I didn't know anybody, like I was there by myself, and I didn't have any support. And, my 18-year-old friends were all going off to college. And, of course, like they said, I'm sorry your dad passed, but, and we did actually have not a funeral, but just like a small ceremony, but just for like my family. And so I didn't have friends there at the ceremony or anything. And so I was alone, right? Like it was the summertime. I was out of high school. So it's not like it happened while I was in high school and my friends would like console me then.
Right.
It was a huge time of transition for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the summer before, you graduate, or after you graduate high school, it's a huge transition time. Um, But at 41, I had so much support. Um, so much support. Like I have a core group of who I call my sisters, and they were literally there. Um, you know, it was over Christmas, like I said. So like one of them was the nurse who got her in the hospital, like in her room. She took Connor. She had Christmas with him. She cooked Christmas dinner. Like I basically just said, like, you guys take care of everything, and I'm gonna be at the hospital. Like, take care of my kid. I trust what you're doing with him, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, and they help. So you know, one of the biggest things I will tell you that helped me after my mom died. So it was the day, you know, she died at like 1:30 in the morning. It was that night. On Christmas Eve, hospice had come to deliver like a bed and all the stuff, right? The toilet and the walkers and the wheelchairs and all this stuff. And when I got home, there was all of this crap in my living room, right? Just like all this hospital equipment that we never even used, right? Because it just, that's the way it happened. And I sat in my living room and I was just like, I cannot look at this stuff. Like, I just
Yeah.
can't do it. So I called a friend and she made the phone calls for me to get the stuff taken out that day. She went and got pizza for Connor and I and a bottle of wine. And she sat me on the couch. She cleaned my living room and she put a glass of wine there and she literally like covered me and I was honestly, I'd had a couple glasses of wine, so I couldn't drive her home. And she said she had her husband pick her up and she's like, stay here. This is your safe space for today. Just stay here. Like, you know, and that was so helpful. Right.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people just need to do the shit you don't want to do. Right. Like,
Yeah.
Right. You know, and
Yeah.
so like, yeah. Like, yeah.
My best friend, her grandpa just passed on Saturday, and I'm going over there tomorrow. And I like ran into her randomly yesterday, and she said, "Oh, I have to go to Old Navy to return my grandpa's pants that my mom just bought for him."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "I'll go to Old Navy." And
It's that kind of stuff. It's that kind of stuff that's helpful, right?
She's like,
We're
"I see
like,
this." She's like, "I see this pair of pants." I just started bawling. I said, "I'll grab them from you on Friday, and I'll take them and return them for you."
1000%. It's the little things that you don't think about that, you know, we're like, when I grieve, the way that I handle grief is I get everything out of sight, right? So that's just how I grieved. I started giving my mom stuff away, right? I was like, I don't want to see, you know, whatever it was, our desk or her, just the things that would make me hurt, you know. And so
Yeah.
my friends just came and took it. And what they said is that they're like, we know that you're grieving. We will hold it for you. And if you need it back, you come and get it back. Like, you know, no questions asked, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Which I think that's nice because, you know, when you're struck with this new thing that just happened, like you're not thinking clearly.
Not at all.
You know, when everything happened with my sister, the first day after, my parents were like, we're tearing down the pool. And I looked at them, I said, "You're not thinking straight, you're not getting rid of the pool."
Right.
You know how many memories are from that pool? Like Ava pool. Like, you're not thinking straight. This just happened. Give yourself
Right.
process what happened.
Right.
But it's like things like that. You just like snap your fingers and you want things done. But
right.
you know, there's consequences to just snapping your fingers and getting things done. Like you can't take back some things. You know, if you sold all that stuff, you can't be like, "Oh,
Right.
please have those things back."
Yeah. You know, it's
It's nice
interesting.
of your friends.
My mom and I, so Connor, I've always given Connor, since the baby, Christmas ornaments every year of what I'm sorry, hang on just 1 second. I'm so sorry. Next. So when my mom started living with me, she would get me Christmas ornaments of what my ornaments were kind of always of like what was happening that year, right? And so my mom started doing the same thing for me. And then the year, like, so the first Christmas, her first Christmas, I couldn't put them up. Like, I put up Connor's ornaments, and then
The year
the
after she
second
passed, or
year,
like the year that she passed?
oh, the year after she passed, because yeah. And then, in fact, I don't even think I put any Christmas ornaments up that year. I think I just put a tree. And then the next year, because my mom loved that. She loved to like look at all the ornaments for Connor and all of his memories and stuff like that. And it was just like, it was really hard. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And then the second year, I put up Connor's ornaments, right? And then last year, I finally just was like, I just got rid of them, like the ones from her to me, because it was like, I don't want to feel this pain every Christmas. So like Connor's ornaments, actually, I didn't even put up his ornaments this year because we have a cat and he's a jerk. I didn't want him to break. So, but I still got his ornament for him and stuff like that. But I just, after 3 years, I was able to let it go. But one thing I did do, and I know that you and I have talked about this, is the stars that I got. So she died on the 27th, and so at the beginning of every January 1st, I put up a glass star, a stained glass star, to show like this is the year that I'm starting without you. So I have 4 hanging up now in my office.
That's a nice way to honor her.
Yeah.
How do you feel like now that you have time to like process the fact that you got rid of the ornaments? Like, are you still okay with the fact that you did that?
I am. Yeah, because it wasn't like something that was from childhood, right? It was more than something you just kind of did because I was doing it for my son. So I think it was a little bit different,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, I mean, it might have been like 10 ornaments, right? And so like once Connor grows up and is out of the house, like I'll give him all of his, and I just didn't want like an ornaments hanging out, like
Yeah.
yeah. So
And how are you feeling now? A few years after.
yeah, so I mean there it's weird. I know she's still with me because so recently I was in Chicago at an arboretum, and there's this beautiful gift shop. My mom loves nature and flowers, and this place was just beautiful. And um, my mom loved to shop, and I was like, oh man, I know my mom would love this store, right? It had all this cool stuff. And there's this song, my favorite song in the world, which she knew what it was, and it's a song from 1977, so it's not like a popular song, right? I mean, it is, but it's not something that you would hear now on the radio. And right when I said that, an instrumental version of that song came on from
Wow.
1977, right? And so also when she first passed, I have, and I still do, I have dreams about her, where
That's
we have
nice.
full-on conversations. And so it's not scary or sad because like, oh, I know you're still hanging out,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's not gone forever, right? Or like I'll find something or see something or hear something, and like you're still around, so it's that space of goneness. So like with my best friend, that space of goneness feels complete. Like if she feels gone forever because I didn't get to say goodbye to her. I didn't know it was going to happen. It just happened, right? With my mom. And it's interesting because with my mom and so I knew with my uncle, like eventually, like, cause he was, really sick, like that was going to happen. And I got to tell him goodbye before he died. But my mom and uncle were very close. And so my grandmother actually passed away too during this. I mean, I've actually lost all of my grandparents, but my mom's mom died a couple of years ago. But I have dreams, like multiple dreams, where my mom and my uncle and my grandmother are all like sitting at a table together, and which is something they did in the past, and they're having conversations. And in fact, one time, my recent dream, it was so vivid, and I was like, "Am I dead?" because I was like, "Are you real?" And my uncle was my uncle, and he was like, "Yeah." And so I touched him, and I like felt him, and I was like, "Oh shit, am I dead?" No. Like, okay.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I'm always like temporary visit or like permanent visit, So yeah, it's pretty
That's
funny.
funny. Do you remember the first time after your mom passed where someone was like, "How are you?" And you said, "Oh," and you said, "I'm okay," and like actually meant like you are okay.
Yeah. It's hard because like she was really sick towards the end. She was in a lot of pain, like for a couple months. Like um and I have always been in jobs where like I have to detach, right? To like police, fire, military, um I mean, I used to work in the emergency room, so I've done CPR and adult, children, all of it, right? And I've always been able to detach. But when it comes to my mom or Connor, I can't detach. The first time that they thought she had a stroke and I was in the emergency room, they thought I was going to pass out. They're like, "Oh, sweetie, you're blue. You need to sit down." Like, if I love you, I cannot see you in pain. If I don't know you, I'm fine, right? Like, but if you're one of my people, like I cannot handle seeing you in pain. And so, um, it's I think because I knew that I was losing her, that I was really able to come to terms with it throughout. I had some time, like to process,
Mhm.
um, and to grieve throughout that whole process, right? That I think was 2 years. Um, it's a daily grief, right?
Yeah.
And so I will tell you, like one thing that like stood out to me that freaked me out a little bit is one suggestion I would make for people with grief is sometimes you feel like if you're an independent person like I am, like I'm gonna do it by myself, I got it, right? And I went to pick up my mom's ashes, and they were supposed to be in like the urn, and it was honestly the whole process was a horrible shit show. But um, I went to go pick them up, and they were in a box, not an urn. It kind of looked like a mailbox, right? And I'd had my dad's ashes forever, but I never like looked at them, right? I never looked at anybody's ashes before,
Yeah.
and the lady put the ashes on the desk, and she was like, "Here's mom," and she opened the box, and I saw her ashes, and it really freaked me out because
Yeah.
I just
I feel like that's so insensitive.
the whole thing was horrible.
Oh my god.
And I was like, "Could you please put it in an urn and like screw it closed,
Yeah.
for so that you know what I mean, until I'm ready to like spread these ashes or whatever."
Yeah.
So I would say to somebody going through that process, like even if you think you can do it by yourself, bring somebody with you anyway, because it's important. You know what I mean? Like even if they're sitting in the car, even if they're, you know what I mean, because you just don't know. Yeah.
When I was the one who picked out the dress for Susie, and my two best friends came with me. I was like, "You like
Yeah.
I can't." And I remember us walking up and down the aisle of the stores. I'm holding on to the carriage. I'm like, I need to go to the bathroom. I'm going to be sick.
Pass out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, and I don't know how I would if I would have been able to handle if they weren't there.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't.
It's like little
You're
things that
right.
you're like, you don't think. And when you're there, you're like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah. 1000%. And yeah, it's interesting because and I know a lot of people say this about grief, but in the beginning, like everybody's there, right? How are you? They bring you food, they check on you, all that kind of stuff. But then life moves on, right?
Yeah.
And they stop, right? And maybe on the anniversary of their death, they might check on you, but the grieving doesn't stop for you. Like it's always it's the little things that you don't. I mean, there was something so stupid. I have a sunroom where my mom's art desk was, and I removed the desk. In fact, I'm sitting at the desk right now, but there was one of her art pencils that fell in the groove between like the window and the ledge, and like that caught me off guard, right? I was like,
Yeah.
Like it's the stupid little things that you don't anticipate.
Yeah.
Or when somebody calls the first time asking for my mom, I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It happened, I think it was just last week, those people who like go around to your house and be like, oh, we're doing like solar lighting, whatever, those people. And I just pulled into the driveway and I just see this man standing like in our driveway staring at our house. I'm like, can I help you? He's like, let me guess, you're Susan Hannah. And I was like,
dude.
And he like named everyone in the family, but he like said her name first. And like I felt my heart like go right into my stomach. I was like, can I help? Like, what do you want? now I'm annoyed. Like, and obviously he didn't know, but it's still like a shock. Like, it's like hitting you all over again.
It's so interesting. On Monday, so Connor sleeps where my mom slept, like in her room, and I changed the room. I painted the walls. There used to be this like deep red wall. That was like an accent wall, and my aunt was over, and she said something about like, it's weird not seeing that red wall here, and right when she was leaving, I didn't tell her, but a friend of mine was coming over to bring me something, a snack, and my friend had the same color hair and same haircut as my mom, and so I was opening the door, and my friend, she just can come in, right? So she opens the door, and my aunt looked like she had seen a ghost because it was like same color hair, same color, the same haircut. And she's like, oh my God, I thought it was your mom for a second, and she goes, my heart just dropped. I thought I saw a ghost.
Yeah.
And right after my mom died, like 2 or 3 people were like, I swear I saw your mom in Meyer. They're like, same thing. They're like, it shocked me, like, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't had that experience yet, thank God, because I don't know if I can handle it. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go.
I was going to say, I also had a healing experience. Right before my mom died, she always wanted to stay in a log cabin for Christmas. And so like 10 days before she died, we actually did that. And then the next year we went back, Connor and I went back and stayed in the same log cabin. And it was sweet. It was a lot of good memories. And yeah, one thing I would tell people too, like, I mean, obviously death is unpredictable and we don't know when it's going to happen. But if you know that you have a loved one that's sick, one of the things that we did that was so meaningful is there are books that are like tell me about yourself books. And I had Connor interview my mom. Tell me about your life books. And it was good, right? I learned some stuff I wouldn't have learned. And just
like what a special gift he has now.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we were going to write it down, but then we were like, no, let's just have a conversation about it, right? And so that's what we did. But and that's actually something I did for him with like both of my grandmothers, and then my mom and his other grandmother. I did these grandmother books asking about their lives because I knew like life is short and we're not going to know these answers, right? Yeah. It's like, how did you meet my grandfather? How did you know what I mean? Like, tell me about your childhood, things that I'll never know, and it was good. I think that those interviews are important and they're helpful.
Well, it was lovely chatting.
You too. Yeah. So I hope it helps somebody.
I'm sure it will. I think it just helps to show that like you're just not alone. And
No,
Like you feel how you feel when you feel it, and that's just pretty much it.
it is. And, death is so weird in so many circumstances. And
Yeah.
um, I heard this, I don't know if I told you this. I'm in a, I'm in like another, it's not a book club, but it's whatever. It's a group. And there was a lady from Africa, and she told me the story, and I thought it was really interesting. She said, when a child dies with a certain tribe, um, that they bury the body and they don't tell the mom where they buried the body, because there's a saying that basically it's like the mother would never leave the tombstone, right? And so I was like, I could see that,
Yeah.
like,
I've
yeah,
heard that. I might have heard that from you. I don't know who else I would have heard.
yeah, maybe
I've heard
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of a random thing, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah. So it's just interesting.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things that I've learned from, my experiences is, like you said, to find your people.
Mm-hmm.
That
People.
makes the biggest difference.
You
Like
have to have your people.
you need to have your people. And it could be one people, two people, three, like
Yep. It could be all the people. Yeah,
it could be all the people.
exactly.
But like you just need to find your people because like you said, there's things you just can't do on your own.
Absolutely.
And
And it's okay to say, I need this, or, yeah, it's interesting. Like, and I've seen a lot of death, and so like how I've seen people help other people. So like, I had a friend lose a baby, and one of the ways that we helped her is that everybody bought gift cards to eat out for that family, because like you're not going to want to cook, right?
Yeah.
After the loss of the baby. Or they made sure at the time, my friend had a 3-year-old, and they made sure to give gifts to the 3-year-old so that he wouldn't feel like, obviously this a strenuous time, and like, and then another thing, she knew that she was going to lose the baby, so we actually each made an ornament for the baby and like wrote a message to her, and every year she takes out the tree and the ornaments and remembers the baby that way. And so there's always a way to help somebody that's grieving. Like, whether
we had a meal train, I think, until a week before Thanksgiving. We had food delivered to our house every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah, like, and it's helpful.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, no one was really
helpful,
eating, but it was helpful. Like
it's
one
helpful.
anyone had to like even think about.
Exactly. Or like, just yeah, like it is. I think sometimes it's helpful. Like, if the person can answer, like, what would be the most helpful to you, right? Like, for me, one of the things that was helpful is just somebody taking comment for the day, just so I could have some space to grieve, right?
Yeah.
Like just a day by myself where I didn't have to take care of him. Yeah, we're
And I think people need to know like it's okay to not know what to do, but
absolutely,
like come over and just sit with me.
absolutely.
Like something as simple as that, I think is very therapeutic and very healing. And it's just like it's nice to know that you're not alone. Even if there's no conversation happening, you're not by yourself.
Or and even yeah, or even like just sending a text. Like, it doesn't have to be responded to. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about you, and I have a friend who recently lost her partner, and I think about them all the time, and I'm like, you don't have to call me back. I just wanted to let you know I'm thinking about you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's and it goes a long way. That simple text, it's a 3-second text. Hey, I'm thinking about you, knowing that I'm probably not going to get a response back, and it's fine. It's not what I'm looking for. I want you to know I'm thinking about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to my friend yesterday, I was like, listen, take it from someone who's been been in this spot recently. I said, like, this process will show you who you can count on, who you can depend on, and like I said, who your people are. I said, if people are reaching out, be like, hey, like, I text you, but I haven't heard from you. Like, those aren't your people.
Hell no, those aren't your people.
Like, this isn't the time for someone to be upset with you or mad at you because you didn't respond to their text message. Like, it's emotionally draining and exhausting.
Mm.
You know, when everything happened with me, I went back maybe like a month later. I was like, you know what? There were so many people who reached out to me. Let me go back and just say thanks for like reaching out. And I went back, but everything from that day just came crashing back at me. And I was like, I can't, it's just too much. And I didn't. And against anybody, it was just too emotionally hard for me to respond.
I totally get that. When my mom died, I saved all the cards, like, and I like put them in the closet, and I was like, and I couldn't. And I was like, you know what? No, it's okay. I don't have to. Like, if you sent me a card, it's because you love me, and like, you don't expect a thank you note, right? Like,
we did that.
it's okay.
I think I did maybe like 30 cards from the guest book from the funeral home. My mom did the rest. I'm like, I just can't, I can't write anymore. You know, she wanted to get those cards.
And I think a lot of that depends on your age, you know, and how you're brought up and stuff like that. But like, I think younger generations are kind of like, you know, it's okay to let some of that shit go, you know?
Yeah, because it's just too, like, you're already so emotionally fragile. Like, you need to be like kind to yourself, but like, it really is okay. Like, if they're going to get mad because you didn't get a thank you card for like sending me a card,
right?
I don't need it right now. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Like, it's not that serious. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like, you learn something new about grief and how it affects you every single day.
absolutely.
You're willing to tolerate what you're not willing to tolerate.
In that first year, you know, it's such the hardest year, right? Because it's all those freaking milestones, right? It's the first birthday, it's the first Christmas, it's the first whatever, you know. It gets a little bit easier after that. But it's never easy.
Yeah.
It gets easier, but it's never easy. So it's just, yeah.
So it was lovely chatting. I'll try to hop on Sunday to see how I'm feeling.
It's okay if you're not. We let you there.
Yeah.
Okay. No.
All right, but we'll talk soon.
Exactly. All right. Have a good night. Okay. All right. Bye.